Hey, John here. Let's look at this solder dispenser that I got here. Every now and then people ask me about, things that are in the background of some of the videos on my channel, and this is one of the things that came up a while ago, and I've been wanting to talk about this for a while. So let's talk about homebrew solder dispensers. As always, big thanks to all my Patreons, especially the VIPs listed here. You make a lot of this possible. You really help out. I appreciate it. See the link below in the description on YouTube, and you can too become a Patreon if you want. Okay, so what do we got here? I've got a bunch of half-inch copper fittings is what I've got. These aren't even soldered together. You can see this thing just pulls out. It's held together by friction and gravity, and there's little pieces of copper tubing that go between each one of these fittings. This not so elegantly hacksawed brings a whole new meaning to hacksaw. Any little piece like that fits together, and if you got a little time over the holidays here, I'm recording this in December of 2024, and you want to do a project, but you don't have one in mind, but maybe you want to get ready for a project, which is a project in itself, you might want to throw together one of these things. Now, I made this many years ago. You can tell by the amount of tarnish on the copper here. And normally I don't take it apart, so these are in here the friction is pretty strong on these. So this is all it is. You just get a bunch of half-inch fittings from your local big box hardware store and put this guy together. And what you do here is these are basically 1 inch long. I think this has as you can see on this scale here, this is an inch, or if you're in millimeters, 2.54 millimeters. It's nominal, of course. As you saw this one earlier, it's not even close to the same size. So as long as it's more than, 5/8 of an inch or more than, just make it 2 centimeters. Up to 2.5. And the reason you don't want it too long is because these pipes, you can see this bulge here. It holds a half-inch pipe in there and a half-inch pipe in here. So when you put it together, if you put a 1-inch pipe in there, you can see it'll disappear. Well, maybe not entirely. Maybe that's why some of these are a little shorter than others in here, and you can get the tightest turns and things like that. And that was obviously part of the goal here. So now I don't know which pieces were where, but it doesn't really matter. This whole thing is nominal. Anyway, I think what we're looking at is something that went together like this. And this is how you do it, right? You just cut these pieces into, appropriately lengthed for your task. And I never even soldered this thing together. I just kind of slapped it together and let friction hold it together. You can see how loose these are. If this is to use for your purpose, what you can do is just don't hit it very hard. You can just tap this thing with ever so lightly with a hammer and put it a little bit out of round, and then that'll cause more friction because it won't slide in so easily. But the reality is, when you put this together, there's, enough going on here where it's not ever going to fall apart. I mean, it's not like we got water pressure turned on here. It's not going anywhere, people. And then you just put these little pieces in here. So what do you got? For this particular system, I've got, you can see this is 4 inches long if we put it in here. So the tube here, and the one that goes through these solder spools are 4 inches long. And all these fittings are, as I said, are 1 inch or maybe 3/4 or something like that. 2 centimeters will be fine. And then you just get these fittings for all these angles. And you can clearly see there's 4 elbows here, 2 T's, all right, that stick up like this with your 2 centimeter fittings in here and there, 4 inch, 4 inch, and 4 inch for this piece. Like so. You get whatever spools you want, and don't solder the top piece. Whatever. If you get cute and you want to solder this, okay, great, but don't do this one because you can't put new spools on there if you do that. Plus, you'll probably melt the plastic. And I always like the fat one on the left. This is how I normally load it. God forbid I become disoriented, right? I'm getting older. We're all getting older, so the last thing you need to do is not be able to find the right solder you want. You can see it's actually hung up because it's a little crooked here. So I got to lift this side up here a little bit in order to get the other one to go down. Like I said, this thing holds itself together really well. And really, that's all there is to it. And, you want to put more spools on here, make these longer. Everything's custom. And what is the cost of this, right? So today I did some Googling on, I don't know, some of the local big box stores. These elbows are 75 cents each, which is just an appalling outrage as far as I'm concerned. And you need 6 of those. And these tees are $1.40 each. I think this was at Home Depot today, December, whatever it is, 7th, 2024. And, of course, the biggest expense is the half-inch tubing here. And you can buy these in... You'd be surprised at how much tubing there is in here, right? These 3 pieces are 4, 8, 12 inches. So that's a foot, an SAE. So you're going to need more than a foot if you want to build this. And I, originally was going to make this narrower and put the, spools out on these elbows. But then they a little bit crooked and, anal retentive. It's nice, give a little, clear your elbows. All right. And the reason I bring that up here is these things, the horizontal piece, you want 4 inches, okay, minimum in my opinion, if you're going to have 2. And I like 2 because, 2 different nominal sizes that I use all the time, skinny one and the fatter one. I don't even know what gauge these are. But, this is the pretty standard stuff you go out and buy. I use 60/40 in this particular thing. What is this? 20 gauge for this one. And this one over here is, I don't know, 0.64 millimeter. Is there a gauge number on here? I don't know. But use whatever you want, right? And there you go. You've got it all set up. Now, why do you need this? Well, for years, I just have this thing on my desk. This doesn't work at all because it's always rolling all over the place when you're soldering. Giant pain in the ass. Then you do this, it still moves around a lot. And, when you're dealing with, metal circuits and stuff, sometimes I might be soldering something here, and I've got a circuit board over there that might actually be live, not necessarily, mains currents or anything like that, but I might have something running on 5 volts over here. And, if this thing's moving, just no. If it's on the dispenser, where the solder is at all times, all right? Now, I don't recommend working with live stuff in the vicinity. Yes, I've destroyed things by accident while doing that. But that was before I had this wonderful solder dispenser. Just saying. All right. So these are pretty cool. Easy to make. All in, what are you looking at? 6 elbows, 2 tees, and you can buy usually a 2-foot length of tubing at your local big box stores. Even at today's outrageous prices of copper, you can get all the parts you need for about, $13, $14, and you're in business. And I wanted this bar, you look at how I made this thing. You want this bar to be as low as possible. You want the center of gravity to be very low so that when you're pulling off, it doesn't tip over. This will not tip over. I mean, even if I try to tip it over, it's not wanting to tip over, okay? So don't get cute with that. You could probably also build one that's kind of a cross with a T that sticks up and dispense it sideways. I don't know. I'm not sure that works too good. I mean, you can see the spools are kind of crooked and wonky, especially if you put 2 on there. That's not a good idea. Now, I don't remember how long ago I built this. 20 plus years ago, maybe longer. Back then, these things were really cheap. You just buy a bag of 10 of them or something for a pretty discounted price, or team up with a buddy of yours who also wants one and you just buy in quantity in bulk and you'll get a discount. I do not recommend buying these online at the world's largest retailer. I just checked their prices and they're outrageous, in my opinion, compared to what you can get at, your Home Depot, Lowe's, and all those types of big box stores retail over the counter. I don't know about Ace Hardware. They might even be reasonable as well, especially if you only want to make one. You need 2 tees. You don't need a bag of 10 or whatever. So maybe you'll be able to get a deal on it. Like I said, I think on today's prices, all the parts on this is less than $15. All right, so let's do a quick sanity check here. What are your alternatives? Is this even worth doing, right? Well, as you can see, $13, you can just buy one. Why build one if you can buy one? Well, to be honest with you, if you look at this thing, this base, it's not very wide. Yes, it is a carrying handle, but I'm not buying a Scooby-Doo lunch, box or something like that. I'm not sure. My point is, how often are you going to carry this thing around? Yeah, I suppose. Once in a while you need to pick it up, but I don't know. I would like a wider stance on the footing here, but I'm sure it does not tip over. If we go and look at the reviews here, so what do we got? We got 800 ratings. So people buy them. A lot of people like it. What do they got? AI says customers like the build quality, utility, and value of the product. They mention it's well thought out, works well, the right tool for the right job. Some appreciate the design, weight, ease of use. Oh, yes, the weight, yes. It's got to be heavy enough so it doesn't tip over. I would be thoroughly peeved off if the dum-dum ever tips over. So I like to read these bad reviews. Usually it's something that's this imbalanced. Whoever's down here is probably griping about shipping problems or something that's utterly irrelevant. Let's see why some people don't give it 5. Reduces clutter. Give your solder spool. I say solder. I'm from the U.S. I grew up this way. My shop teachers called it solder. I say solder. Everyone else on the planet calls it solder. I appreciate that. I don't know what Merriam-Webster says about the correct way to pronounce this. It probably is solder, but I'll get over it. I apologize if I offend you with my obnoxious accent in saying solder. What do we got? Still not convinced I needed one, but wow, yada, yada, yada. This is how I felt when I threw mine together and just built the darn thing. All right, the review, yes, very handy. Gone are the days you use one hand to stick your finger in the spool and blah, 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 blah. Yes, yes, yes. Perfect for my repair. But if it's perfect, why are we giving it 4 stars? Good under $7. Wow. I guess they used to have lower prices in 2016. Well, my thing must have cost me under $10 when I built it back in the day also. Probably even less than that. Kind of wish it had 2 solder guides because you can fit 2 rolls of different gauges. Yes, that's true. I noticed that too when I first looked at this listing. If you look at the photos, they show here where they got 2 spools in there. And it only has one thing to dispense the solder. It only has one little spigot there. I guess I'm off the screen, but you can see where I'm pointing right there, right? Mine doesn't have that at all. And I'll show you the pros and cons of this in a minute. In my opinion, utterly worthless to have this while paying out the solder. It's when you coil the surplus back in there that you might want something like this. And I'll show you why that is true with mine in a minute. Okay, so there's one, and the point is it's what, $13, $14, same price as building my own here. Ooh, here's a double one. Now this thing reminds me... This reminds me of that Lego couch in the movie. You got, 2 dispensers high. The 2-story couch that they built in that Lego movie thing is what I'm thinking of now when I see this. I'm not sure this will stand up when you're yanking solder out up high here. That looks annoying to me. But now that I think about it, if you have a big, heavy lead, or even rose solder down here holding the base down, it probably won't tip over. I'm sure people would gripe about it. You wouldn't see, almost all the ratings giving it a 5 if it tipped over easily. So I'll withdraw my suspicions on that. But this is kind of a nice idea. I suppose it saves table space over my design, which has got a pretty wide base. More akin to maybe this one here. What is this? Another one, $22 on Amazon. And it's got a fixed little dispenser hole there. This one probably has a better, wider stance. Never going to tip over kind of a thing going on there. You can see the rubber feet underneath there. Probably not a bad idea. Mine does not have rubber feet, but it weighs enough. It never moves around. I have no problem with it. I usually solder on top of like one of those silicone work mats, and nothing slides around on there anyway. So if the solder dispenser is on that mat or next to it, it won't step up and walk onto it. So I don't have any problem with mine moving around. But if you do, little rubber feet like that might be a good idea. I suppose I could just put sticky, those peel and stick rubber feet on the bottom of mine in the corners if I really wanted rubber feet, which I never, ever have considered an issue. So let's look at the pros and cons of getting, having one with or without this solder dispenser hole thing, like you saw there, right? So I've got this, and I pull the solder off. It's going to come on. What's the big deal? I don't need it. When do you need it? Well, if you're going to wind it back up like this, all right, now I usually hold it like this and wind it back in. I don't have a problem, right? I use my hand to do this thing. If you do it without holding onto it and there's no back pressure, even if there's a feed hole here, I suppose I could simulate that by, grabbing it like this with my hand. So there's no friction on it, but I'm guiding it. What would happen is it would wind on very loosely, and I don't know, it could get, tangled in there, and the last thing you want it to do is, like a garden hose, get all messed up on there. So I find it very convenient to just hold it and wind it on. Now, if you don't have any guide at all, or in a winch, you'd call it a level wind, to make sure that you're always winding it where you want it to go. Not that those things that have a single fixed hole are a level wind, but they're certainly better than nothing. If you pull some out, and this is my point, and you just wind it up, notice what it's doing here. It will walk off of this and wrap itself around here. If it ever does that, this is very annoying because it's kind of hard to pull out, and as it goes, you can see it continuously winds on there. That's very annoying. This is probably why they have that little dispenser hole thing, that guide, which, again, I like to have a little bit of pressure on here so that it stays flat when I rewind it on there. Again, if you're watching this, and I've had people call me out on this as well, this is 6040 solder. It has lead in it. Lead is poisonous. I now have lead on my hands. Should I be using gloves? Maybe, probably. But as long as I wash my hands before I suck my thumb or start chomping at some potato chips or something, I should be fine. That's my opinion. That's not medical advice. That's just how I operate. Your mileage may vary. Now, having said that, I do have gloves here. When I work with stuff that really is nasty, I use these things. I just got a big old box of these. I think these came on Amazon or something. As you can see how beat up this box is. It's been around here for a while. I got a couple of boxes. I think about 5 boxes for, I don't know, dirt cheap. 2019-04. So this is 5 years ago. Since I bought this thing. All right. Like I said, I bought a couple of boxes at that time. Maybe this is the second box I go through. Anyway, point is, if you need to protect your hands, you should get some gloves. So, all right, there's my public service announcement. I'm do as I say, not as I do here, okay? But, if you're working with your bare hands, like I said, you got to wash them, make sure that you do not leave lead crap in here, rub your eyes and stuff like that. Don't do that. Bad for your health. Okay, so this is the deal. $15, even by today's prices. Same thing if you buy one online. If one of the nice things of building your own is you can make this thing as long as you want, put as much on here as you want. I suppose you could use this as a wire dispenser as well. I'm not sure I would want to. I don't know. Let me know in your comments below what other uses you might have for this. My hesitation on wire is that if your wire is maybe a wire wrap wire, super in 30 gauge, that Kynar wire, probably be fine on something like this. But if as the gauge gets thicker, is my point. It may have a tendency to want to do one of these moves like I just showed you before. You may have a hard time keeping this thing wound in. This is really more flexible, almost fluid-like in, when you put it somewhere, it stays. Wire, if you get regular copper wire or other kind of wire, it would spring up and want to unwind and get all tangled in here. So that might actually be more of a problem than something that is easily malleable, super easily malleable, like solder. Okay, so you get my point is you can make this longer. You can put multiple spools on here or other kinds of wire if you really wanted to use this for other things. So anyway, that's my solder dispenser. That's some people have asked about it. That's how I made it. That's where the parts came from. So what do you think? Throw me a note in the comments below if you think, great idea, bad idea, what am I thinking? I should have done blah. Let me know. All right. Thanks for watching. See you next time.